Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on Bane, the P-Break Merchant. Bane is a ranged intelligence support hero whose most iconic feature is the ability to force your opponents to play less Dota. He has two abilities that remove heroes from the fight for a considerable amount of time, and another one that makes one hero completely ineffectual for the next several seconds. As a result, he's incredibly good at stopping snowballing heroes, and in the case that a late game carry gets enough farm, he can reduce their damage by up to 70% for the duration of Enfeeble. If you're playing him properly, you can use both of his sleep abilities to turn every single 5v5 teamfight into a 4v3 favoring your team. All of those traits make Bane an absolute nightmare to deal with for the enemy team, and for his own team, he represents a very strong source of both crowd control and lane dominance. If you're ever in the middle of a Dota match and feel the need to refill your water, go ahead and just walk towards the Bane. He'll have the duration of Nightmare, Fiend's Grip, and your own respawn timer to go refill. At level 25, with the right talent, Bane can put a single enemy hero to sleep completely inactionable for 15.25 seconds, and that is without any buff from a neutral item. A lot of people like to bring up Blink Dagger as an example of how much stronger Dota 2 is as a game engine than League of Legends, but honestly, you should tell them about Bane instead. The idea of sitting still for 15 seconds straight would send most League players into a fucking coma. For reference, that's enough time to open up your phone and watch an entire TikTok, or, if you're a boomer like me, 2 vines in a row. In addition to that, Bane will pitifully expose the enemy supports for not knowing how the game works. You see, Nightmare is actually dispellable by any hero. All it takes is a friendly 8-click on that hero to remove the Nightmare and transfer it onto themselves. However, even in really high MMR matchmaking, nobody seems to know this, or if they do know this, they absolutely refuse to act on it. As a result, when you Nightmare a hero, they're as good as still for the next several seconds. Looking at it purely from a single target perspective, Bane may have the single best CC in the entire game. In addition, Fiend's Grip also burns mana. I could not tell you why. I assume it is just to make Medusa and Storm Spirit players mad. If so, very successful. While Bane's flashier spells obviously steal the spotlight, it would behoove you to also read the text for Enfeeble. This spell is fucked up. 70% damage reduction for 9 seconds on more than 100% uptime. If the Bane positions himself properly and can stay alive and you don't have a BKB or a Dispel, you can permanently deal less than a third of the damage that you're supposed to be dealing. Throw this on an enemy's Fen and enjoy watching him hit like a wet noodle while he doesn't understand what the hell is going on. It also deals a nice little chunk of pure damage, and if you get the talent, reduces cast range. 30% cast range might not seem like a lot, but trust me, in the middle of a team fight, the enemy casters are going to be completely confused as to why the hell they're walking towards the middle of the fight instead of casting their ultimates. This spell is incredibly difficult to play around, can affect 2 enemy heroes at once, and turns carries into cannots. I don't blame you if you've never read this spell. After all, it's not really what people think of when Bane comes to mind, but trust me, this spell is messed up. As soon as Bane players realize how broken Enfeeble is and start maxing it, the world will see, and Ice Frog will nerf it to the ground. Listen, I am begging you to abuse this while you can. Enfeeble is a messed up spell, and if it were up to me, every single Bane player would be maxing it at level 7. Now, if these things sound fun to you, first off, what the hell is wrong with you? Second off, here's how to play Bane. The first thing you should know is that he is an absolute monster in the lane. He has excellent base stats, a solid right click, and a little ability called Brain Sap. I haven't talked about it because his other spells are so insane, and Brain Sap is so utilitarian it feels almost trite to talk about it, but this is one of the single best trading spells in the game, and you should absolutely get at level 1 just to piss off the enemy position 4. At level 1, Brain Sap deals 90 pure damage, which is already quite nice, but it also heals you for that exact same amount. It also has a very fast cast animation, which means that you can weave it in between your right clicks and make the enemy pause for his life a living hell. Yeah, sure, Rubik can lower your right click damage for a couple of seconds, but he can't lower the damage of Brain Sap, and he's not getting that health back. 90 damage is very significant. It's a 180 HP swing. That's like, what, a tango and a half? And you have that on a really short cooldown. And once you get Arcane Boots, just launch it at the offlaner too. Why not? The other thing that makes Bane such a good laner is that he has access to a bunch of insane combos thanks to Nightmare. Being able to keep an enemy hero still for that long is just begging to be abused. If you have, say, a Mirana on your team, you can drop Nightmare and then the Mirana can get a guaranteed arrow from long range, stunning and most likely killing the offlaner. He also has a lot of really funny combinations with a bunch of position 1s that you might not expect. Yeah, you've probably thought about sending the Sven to walk behind them to cast Stormhammer and get as much right-click damage as possible. But you can also tell your Lifestealer to infest an ogre, walk over to the Underlord, and then cast the long-ass wind-up spell. Not only does it do a shitload of damage in the early game and stun them forever, it's also really embarrassing. These traits combine to make Bane an incredibly reliable position 5 who can trade with pretty much any position 4 or 3 and still manage to come out on top. After the laning phase, you'll very quickly notice that Bane sucks at hitting creeps, so just don't do it. Bomb around with the offlaner, bomb around with the mid. Let him know whenever Fiend's Grip is off cooldown, because that's going to be a pretty much guaranteed kill in the early game. It is a disgustingly long stun, and the mana drain comes in handy more often than you might expect. A lot of those exact same combos that work well with Nightmare work just as well, if not better, with Fiend's Grip. Call your Mirana over and stun an enemy hero for 9.75 seconds, 11 minutes into the game. He's also really good at yoinking key objectives, so if you have a point in Nightmare and you want to contest the Wisdom Rune, make sure you have better vision, Nightmare the enemy position 4 outside of Wisdom Rune range, and you will probably die, but the XP and ego death of the enemy support will be worth it. The main weakness of your ultimate is the fact that while you're holding the enemy still, they are also technically holding you still. It's a channeled ability, so try to cast it from the trees, or stand behind friendly heroes so they can tank the spells that will undoubtedly come your way. Later on in the game, you can use both Nightmare and Fiend's Grip to guarantee a numbers advantage of pretty much every fight. Try to find someone to Nightmare away from the fight so their supports can't pretend to know how to get rid of it, and then Fiend's Grip an important enemy hero, usually the carrier of the mid. Now, your team has a solid 5 to 6 seconds to just wail on them in an outnumbered situation, and if they get enough spells off, you'll win the fight before it even starts. In terms of item builds, it's all about point target spells, so Aether Lens makes a lot of sense. You can also just go generic support items. Glimmer Cape is really nice because you can cast it on yourself while Fiend's Gripping. That makes it even harder to cancel. A lot of people like the Aghanim Scepter on this hero. I can understand why, but it's really hard to farm that much gold on Bane. I think just positioning yourself for one really good Fiend's Grip usually has better value. Then again, do what you like. Also, there is a rogue right-click version of Bane. It's fun. Let Valve forget about it and accidentally buff it for a couple of patches. Then we can let it run wild in turbo. Until then, please don't pick that facet. The fewer people pick it, the more likely it is to get buffed next patch. I think Bane is sort of the quintessential Captain's Mode hero. I wrote a little bit about this here, and about the Tournament Dota 2 experience. Read it if you like. Now, Bane is a lot of fun to play, but he removes a lot of fun from the enemy team. So, if you see him picked up in the first phase, the best time to counter him is in the second phase of the draft. As fun as he is, he unfortunately falls prey to a pretty wide variety of heroes. Oracle is an obvious choice, he's got a great dispel on a very low cooldown, and Legion Commander is also great because you never really want to be using Fiend's Grip on the offlaner, and she can use Press the Attack to get rid of your ulti, even if you have an Aghanim Scepter. Shadow Demon's Disruption can keep his allies safe during either Nightmare or Fiend's Grip, and it usually waits out the timer for Enfeeble as well. If all goes to shit, Silencer. His ultimate is a channeled ability, and Global Silence will cancel both it and the illusions that spawn from Aghanim Scepter. A Bane going up against a Silencer is never going to have a fun time. Bane is also one of the very few heroes who hits creeps worse than Silencer, so once Refreshers come into play, he's going to have his before you get yours. However, let's say you're the target of Bane's ire. Well, there's a couple of different items that you can go. Lotus Orb is an obvious choice. All 4 of Bane's spells are point target, and if he casts Brain Sap on you, literally nothing happens except his mana pool gets lower, and I find that funny. If you pop a Lotus Orb and then both you and he get nightmared, be sure to yell louder than him in voice chat to make sure your supports know to A-click you. If you're a support going up against a Bane, a Lincoln Sphere or Lotus Orb to put on your carry or mid is a great idea. If all else fails, you can always go Wind Waker. It's very expensive, but upon landing, it will dispel Enfeeble, Fiend's Grip, and Nightmare, eliminating 3/4 of Bane's kit. Manta Style is also a good choice, along with any other dispel abilities. Satanic is equally good at getting rid of Enfeeble and healing yourself up from all that disgusting pure damage he deals for no goddamn reason. And, as with any squishy in support, just jump his ass. Yes, Nightmare does give him a very brief moment of invincibility, and Brain Sap can heal him up a little bit, but he's easy enough to burst that any kind of solid initiation should take him out of the fight before he can do all his bullshit. Keep in mind that if the Bane was doing his job well, you were fighting 3v4s the entire game. Now, you're going to fight them 5v4, and they're going to realize just how privileged they've been this whole time. In conclusion, Bane is a very fun hero, and you should absolutely play him. Send the enemy team to gay baby jail and let them go to the bathroom as soon as you cast a spell. Peace on planet Earth.